but we're going to do the best that we can to find as much balance as we can. So in easy seat or Sukhanasana, we're going to be focusing on our third eye. So I'm nice and cozy here. Feel free to get started with your socks on, sweatshirt on. And I'm going to bring one hand to my belly just so that it can witness my breath, inhaling and exhaling. And I invite you to bring the other hand to your third eye. If this doesn't feel comfortable and you'd rather bring your hand to your heart, you could do that as well. But I'm going to have one hand to my third eye. And with our third eye, that chakra, we're focusing on being able to listen to our own instincts and to not question our instincts. It's so easy for us to do that. Oh, well, somebody else told me I'm wrong. But what if we just hone in, trying to find some balance? And part of that is being able to allow ourselves to listen to our instincts, to the things that we deep down, maybe as deep as our DNA, into the bone marrow, things that we know to be true, our instincts. We'll begin with a balancing breath, just a nice box breath, where it's the equal ratio, inhaling for the same count as our exhale. I invite you to begin with a count of 4, but you do what is right for you. If your arm gets tired, by the way, you can always switch hands or just bring that down to the heart. But as we breathe, thinking about our intuition, thinking about what we already know to be true. I'm going to count for 4 for my breath. So inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, and holding at the top of that breath for 1 count. And then exhaling through my nose for the same count. 3, 4. And keep going at your own pace. Needing to switch your hands, but just focusing on an equal and balanced breath and giving yourself permission to listen to your intuition, to listen to the things that you know to be true. Just trust in yourself. Take one more round of breath. And at the bottom of your exhale, we'll transition. We'll come into our first posture here, a grounding posture, our Baddha Konasana. So that's bringing the bottoms of the feet together. But I encourage you here, if we need to, you can flap your butterfly wings here, just to loosen any of the tightness that you might have in your hips. But let's focus in this, the grounding, feeling our tailbone, feeling our sits bones pressing into the earth, but then feeling our crown light, floating. So between the crown rising to toward the top of your ceiling and your sits bones pressing into your mat, maybe we feel the extension of our spines elongating. We can stay right here, just holding this posture. If you want to add a little bit of movement in, you can release the toes. And I'm going to bring my right hand down, left arm up, and then just switch back and forth, adding a little bit of movement. So the left hand down, right arm arcs up, but always keeping the sits bones really pressing into the earth, rooting, feeling your body connecting to earth as though you have the roots going into the earth. Excellent. Now we're going to roll into our tabletop. Now this is where I might struggle a little bit, so support me here. Okay, so rolling into my tabletop, wrists under our shoulders, but pressing to the fingers, knees under the hips, but pressing to the toes. And we're going to drop into that cat-cow. And I really will invite you and to encourage you to spend some time becoming really mindful, just taking this moment to be so mindful of your breath. How does your breath feel as you inhale and then exhale into the next movement? Or maybe you are mindful of how the belly button moves to the spine in cat, how the belly button drops to the mat in cow. Just find one of these things that you can focus on. You could even be mindful of the nose or the chin carving through space, opening up the heart space in cow, and then carving through the space and tucking in cat. All right. So meet me back in neutral, and we're going to do a little um, balancing here from our table, right? So I think we did this last week, but it's always good to add it in. All right. So we're going to go left hand and right knee. And I'm just going to stretch out my left leg behind me, right hand out in front of me, feeling the pull of the fingers one direction and the toes the other. See if you can bring that left heel up so that you see this plane. Toes are active. Hold here, pulling that belly button into the spine, or feel your hands tip out to the side. And then come back to center and bring the hands down to the mat, and we'll switch. Okay. So here, that's where your right leg reaches out, left fingers reach out. Feel the energy pulling the fingers and the toes opposite directions. Stay here, or just allow them to tip out to the sides of the mat. So left hand goes to the left, right leg goes to the right, and then come back to center and switch. Okay, right hand out, left leg up, tip to the side, and this time, maybe we add in a little practice arm, and your leg will come up into that fire hydrant pose. That just means your knee is over to the side. Reach straight out again, and then return back to our neutral. Okay, so from here, reaching left hand out, right leg raises up. Out to the side, so left hand to left, right leg to right. And now arm comes into cactus, leg comes into fire hydrant. That just means it's almost like you're a dog at a fire hydrant. Reach back out opposite directions and replace. Once more, you ready? Okay. Right arm reaches out, left leg reaches behind you. Tip the leg and the arm out to their side. Fire hydrant and cactus. Curl them back into the center without putting them down yet. Reach straight out once more and then replace. Last time on the other side. Left hand out, right leg out. Hip out to the side. Cactus and fire hydrant. So from here, drop the right knee. Don't let it touch the mat. Drop the left elbow. Don't let it touch the mat. Stretch out and straight in front of you again. And then bring them back to the very center. Ooh, we did it. Okay. Hopefully everyone was feeling good with that. Okay, so now we're going to do a little supported side plank and a little half moon. So I'm going to take my left leg and tip it over to the side, stretch my right leg out, pressing through my left fingers, supported side plank, sending my right fingertips up toward the ceiling. Okay, hold here or allow your right leg to come up into a supported half moon. Hold it here for about 2 breaths. And then release, switching sides. So going back through our tabletop, right leg comes out to support, pressing through the right fingers, sending the left leg nice and straight. Inhale, left fingertips up toward the ceiling. Supported side plank. Now from here, see if you can raise that left leg up, holding it here for about 2 breaths in our supported half moon. And when you're ready, release, coming back to tabletop. Bring the knees as wide as the mat, toes together, and send your hips back for a child's pose. So even if you got a little stuck for a moment, that's okay. Just meet me back in child's pose. I'm going to take off my jacket. I'm nice and warm now. Hopefully you all are too. Okay, from child's pose, we're going to press through our hands to come up through tabletop, and we're going to come into a high plank. So this is where we can do chaturanga dandasana or a supported chaturanga, where we are holding our plank, supported plank or full plank, slowly lowering down, opening up the chest, pulling the spine away as we bend, just gently listening to our lower back. Inhale and exhale, sending back into downward dog. So even if you got a little lost, just join me in downward facing dog. All right, paddle out your down dog. Take a few deep breaths. Shake out your head. Shake out your neck. Maybe find a moment of silence now, sending that energy down the back of your legs, down the heels toward the earth. And then we'll tippy toe, foot in front of foot, to bring both our feet between our hands into a forward fold. All right, so forward fold here. Knees are gently bent. We're hinging at the hips to make sure that we have room for breath, sending out our spine. Maybe we're using a block to support, or maybe we're just hanging low. But taking a moment to notice how the energy is dripping away, how our breath changes. Okay, so from here, pressing to your feet. Now I'm going to take my socks off just to make things a little complicated. We're going to get into Tadasana, pressing up to a Tadasana, but pressing through our feet, all 4 corners, finding that balance of spreading the energy and our weight in through our foot, through our toes, bending the knees, activating the knees, and slowly rolling up vertebrae by vertebrae. So I'm bringing us up to our Tadasana, mountain pose. I'm in the mountains. I love the mountains. All right, pressing through. I just want you to take one moment to breathe in for our Tadasana. Fingertips reaching toward the earth, maybe behind the hips so that you're opening up your heart space, your heart chakra. Taking a deep breath here, feeling our legs are active, our arms are active, our backs are active. Tadasana or mountain pose is not a relaxing pose necessarily. It's not us just lazily standing here. Okay, from here, release your stress you're holding, and we're going to do a little knocking on heaven's door. Just allowing the fist to kind of fly to one side or the other. We'll only do this for a minute, just listening to your back, letting your fist maybe massage our upper buttock, our lower back. And then come to a place of stillness here. And from here, we'll press through and come into an extended mountain, sending the fingertips up toward the ceiling, pressing through the mat, feeling the feet, sending energy beyond the mat, beyond the floor, into the earth. We'll come into a palm pose, which means, just to make sure you can see this, I'm going to interlace my fingers and send my palm up toward the ceiling. So I'm still in my extended mountain, but now I'm kind of stretching out my palms, stretching out the arms, and maybe play around with pulling the arms back behind you if that feels good. maybe rocking side to side. Take a deep breath here, inhaling and exhale, releasing the fingers, maybe even do a little magic finger snowflake falling, which is what's happening outside, right? We'll do a little balance here. We'll come into a tree pose and then into a warrior three. So weight goes onto my left foot. I'm going to inhale, my right knee is bent. Now, if this is as far as you can get, toes on the mat, knee bent, that's okay. Find your drishti, maybe find something or someone to hold on to. Or you can let your inhale and let your knee float up. Your right knee floats up to your waist. Interlace the fingers around the knee, pulling the shoulders away, pressing the knee into the palm, stretching out the backs of the shoulders, not soldiers. Maybe do a couple ankle circles here. I know that might be hard to see with all my flickering lights behind me. And then I'm going to release. See if you can hold your knee here and bring your right knee out to the side. And when we do this, we're going to find our way into our tree pose. And that could be ankle, that could be calf, or that could be the inner thigh, so wherever you're at. Find your tree pose, pressing the weight into all four corners of the left foot, left knees gently bent. And you can bring your hands to your heart. If you need to hold on to the wall, a chair, or another person, do you. If you feel comfortable, you can just stay here with hands to heart. Maybe open up your arms, palms up, ready to receive. Maybe see about straightening out your spine. And you could stay here in this pose or join me as we go into a warrior three. So if you want that little challenge here, I'm going to release my right leg, slowly allow it to sweep through the mat and come up behind me. So heel floats up just like what we just did. Keep our hips balanced and left knee is bent, slowly letting the torso, the heart leading the way, stretch out. And maybe you need a wall, maybe you need a chair. Wherever you're at is where you need to be. So just find your spot. And if this is not quite, if you want to just stay in your free pose, you could do that too. Okay, let's release, coming back up, and we'll do the other side. So finding this, we're actually finding some of our root chakra here. We're finding our balance, finding our way to trust ourselves. So what better way to do that than with our tree posture? Okay, so pressing right foot in, all the weight on all four corners of our right foot, knee is gently bent, and we're going to bring that, now our left knee is bent. If you want to keep the toes on the ground, you can do that. Or if you want to let your left knee float up to your waist, interlace your fingers, pressing the knee into the hands, pressing the shoulders down and away, and then maybe do some ankle circles. We'll do the same thing here. We're going to move into a tree posture. So that knee, that left knee is going to have to open up to the side. And you could find your left foot at the ankle, the calf, or the inner thigh, whatever is working for you today. You can find a wall, another person, or just find your drishti, right knee gently bent. Bring those prayer hands to your heart. Find a focus point. Feel your spine elongating with each breath. Maybe we feel comfortable to open those arms again, ready to receive the gifts of the universe. Or maybe we're thinking about it as balance. Each hand is holding the different weights of all of our life chores, but we're going to find balance in doing all that. And again, we can stay right here, or if you'd like a little challenge to go into a warrior three, releasing that left foot as slowly as we can, allowing the left foot to sweep through the mat, letting the left heel rise behind you, just like what we did before. Find that drishti, right knee still bent. I'm focusing on my shadow right now, which is not a good thing because it's moving. Let the heart space lead as your torso tips forward and your spine elongates away from you. Hands can be at the heart. Hands can be at the hips, keeping your hips as balanced as you can. And when we're ready to release, coming back up slowly and bringing our legs into a wide stance, we're going to come into a nice forward fold. Okay. So feeling the weight even on both feet, balance, right? Knees bent, hinging at the hips. Let the heart space lead forward as you come to a forward fold. Focus now, feeling the top of your head, your crown chakra, maybe allowing the feeling of warmth as it connects to the mat. Not fully connecting necessarily, but just imagining, focusing, breath on our crown chakras here. Take one more breath here in our nice forward fold, and we'll come back down into a malasana. Okay, so the malasana, that is the yoga squat, and I'm going to grab my block and put my block under here for my malasana today. But if you don't want to have a block, you're welcome to do the malasana traditionally. So my knees are out to the side, toes are out to the side, heels are coming in toward the center. My elbows are either under the thighs here, pressing onto the mat, pressing through, the hands are on the mat, and the elbows are on the thighs, or the elbows are in the knees, hands to heart. So in our malasana here, this helps us to open up our sacral chakra. And this is where our creativity and our emotional balance can be restored. We'll talk more next week about when our chakras are out of balance. For right now, we're just going to start finding our way into listening to the chakras, to listening to our balance in our bodies. Okay, we'll take one more breath here. And on the exhale, release, coming down to a seated position, moving the block to the side. We're going to do a supported bridge. So supported bridge. Feet are on the mat, knees are bent, and I invite you to holding our hands out as slowly as possible, activating our core, allowing the body to float back a little at a time. Okay, and pressing through the feet, pressing through the hands, inhaling the hips up toward the ceiling. I'm going to take that block if I have one, and you choose the side that you would like. Place it right underneath the hips, right at the tailbone, and exhale, allowing the spine, the hips, the back of the hips to come onto that mat, into your block. So staying here for a moment, extending the neck, making sure the neck isn't crunched. Be very gentle with your neck. Taking a moment to really breathe here and to feel the stretch and the support. I'm using blocks right now because as we're finding balance, it's important for us to remember that we are supported, right? That we are not alone in this. Sometimes just that feeling of support is so important. There's something that I wanted to read you about this, so I'm going to come out. You stay in your supported And if I can find it. So for the bridge pose, a balanced heart chakra, that's what we're helping open. It helps us to have compassion. But when our chakra is unbalanced, it will result in an inability to give and receive love equally. It can manifest in a lack of emotion or empathy, anger, and loneliness. And that was actually from a website that I sent to everyone on the email. But finding that if we find that we are really having a hard time with a lack of emotion or empathy, or maybe we're super angry or we're super lonely, that might be that our heart chakra is a little out of whack. So find your way into that bridge pose. Okay, let's take one more breath here in our bridge pose, and we'll come out. We're going to come into one of my favorites, which would be another sacral, and that is the happy baby. So inhaling, the spine, the hips up a little bit more, spine nice and long, taking that block out of the way, slowly rolling down. And I'm going to bring my knees to chest, give myself a hug. And then one of our last postures for today is our happy baby. So opening up our sacral chakra down here, holding on to the blades of the feet, pulling the knees toward the armpits. And if it feels comfortable, maybe rocking back and forth. So I can just feel my lower spine popping, and it feels so good. But if rocking back and forth is not your way, that's okay. Okay, take one more breath here, inhaling and exhale. We're going to come back to a seated position, and the way I like to do that is to rock. So we're going to rock back and forth. I put my hands at the back of my thighs and maybe rock my feet, send the energy back behind and then forward. And then as soon as you feel like you have enough energy to get you there, we'll come back into our seated position. So today was the beginning of our venture into balance. Each week is going to get a little bit more challenging. And I'll conclude our class today by bringing us to the idea of one of the yamas, which is Ahimsa, which is nonviolence. Ahimsa is just one of the yamas, which is one of the 8 limbs of yoga. Which just means there's so much more to yoga than just physical. But I was going to read you something, and this is how I'll leave you today. The quote from this book, The Yamas and Niyamas, is ultimately we have just one moral duty: to reclaim large areas of peace in ourselves, more and more peace, and to reflect it toward others. And the more peace there is in us, the more peace there will also be in our troubled world. So today's practice is a little more peaceful than normal, but this is why. So the challenge or your journal entry for today is, for the rest of this week, practice courage by doing one thing daily that you wouldn't normally do. If you're feeling brave, make that one thing something that scares you. If you're feeling really courageous, get excited about the fact that you're scared and you're doing it anyway. See if you can discern between fear and the unfamiliar. Watch what happens to your sense of self and how your relationships with others might be different because you are courageously stepping into unknown territory. Okay. One thing daily that you wouldn't normally do. Maybe that's something to journal on. How can you challenge that uncomfortableness and find your way into that place of peace? I'm going to close out class with you today. Thank you so much for letting me join in your journey, but let's do one breath together. Inhaling, arms up, arcing, taking in all the positive energy of the world around us. Palms together. Exhale, hands to heart, bowing. The light in me sees and honors the light in you. Namaste.